Hello everyone, Pine Iron Apple here with the next two episodes of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, which has been the latest pretty decent show coming from this universe. And while not astounding, feels like the freshest live-action Star Wars we've had in a while, with Ahsoka and the Acolyte being quite lore-rich. Last time we found that this was more of a story set in the Star Wars universe than a Star Wars story, and I'm hoping that'll hold up here. Wim was the worst of the kids, and I'm hoping even if it's predictable he'll get some more stuff with Jude Law's character. Which I have now learned is not named Star Wars Jude Law, and is in fact Jod Nawood. Jesus Christ. But even after that, to be honest, I'm just here to see if the other three kids stay interesting. Let's start the review off by getting into episode 3. Very interesting, as an astrogation problem. I see that we're taking the One Piece route of naming episodes here, because I don't know what the fuck that's on about. We get a decent recap and start the episode back on At-Atin, where the kids' families come together waiting for their children to return. But they see no sign of the kids, and neither does security droids. The supervisor, the planet's ruler I guess, tells them that they're shit out of luck, and there will be no contact outside the planet's barrier. Wim's dad, much like his parenting style, does nothing, while the other parents start to freak out. Fern's mum claiming she'll be up on the supervisor's shit until they help. God, they're not really endearing us to Wendell, are they? The kids and Jod Nawood manage to get out of the jail cell, and with some decently clever use of the Force, they manage to maneuver themselves around the pirates. Jod making the good point that I was thinking of addressing. Even if leaving would have been easy with his use of the Force, he wouldn't have had an easy ship to get away in. They make sure he knows there's no treasure on At-Atin, while Wim still tries to believe Jod is a Jedi. Because I guess any guy with the Force is a Jedi, because Emperor Palpatine is my favourite Jedi. Jod tries to butter the kids up, while the girls keep a healthy skepticism about him. They travel incognito through the crowds, giving us a cute look at some Jawa, and Jod is firmly disappointed as they point to the wreck with the dirt still permeating off of it as their ship. Jod has an old celestial cartographer friend to help point them in the right direction, but the kids force Jod into going back to pick up SM-33, with a lot of guilt-tripping, Jedi disbelieving, and just that little bit of ego belittling. Fern pretty pragmatically wants to speed off and leave, but the pirate actually keeps his word. In a pretty good stealthing scene, sneaking through the droid bay with one or two decent gags, eventually reaching SM-33.
The prince is in danger! Quickly, I must save the prince!
We must save my family!
The bandits are coming!
The gerbil is already back in his eye, but before SM-33 can be ferried away, Jod is interrupted by a fellow pirate, Ben Jar, looking to have tea with him, but he becomes suspicious of Jod's freedom, pointing at the connection between his escape and the children. His escape doesn't go so well as, in a good bit of editing, he books it back to the ship, with a lot of followers. KB agrees slightly with the boys that they need Jod but not necessarily to trust him. With a pretty good use of slight Dutch angles, we get to see Jod fly them out, looking pretty good as he uses their attached line to mess up the surrounding ships as they jump into hyperspace. A pretty good plan, and decently tense as a large cannon threatens to shoot them to bits. And the destruction of parts of the base is pretty badass too. Hold on, is that Jaleel White? Brutus is pretty pissed, but we move away with weirdly timed screen wipe, where the children continue to deliberate as they turn SM-33 back on, who is instantly suspicious of Jod. Jod makes them all food after a weird scene where he just eats a whole bowl in front of them, and he skulks around the ship a bit, taking stock of supplies and raiding the dead bodies littering the halls. There's a pretty good scene of SM-33 trying to put Jod in his place, but the pirate leaves without much more intimidation. SM-33 skulking away weirdly. The kids realise that there's something weird about their home, even if it's not a treasure. And at least they're all smart enough not to fully trust Jod. Wim making sure his credits are hidden. And KB making sure he knows his place. You go, girl. Jod does pretty well at spewing Jedi quotes that mean a lot and nothing at all at the same time. And hours later, they make it to their destination, landing in a crater and walking to Jod's friends. Jod says he doesn't fully trust this friend of his, thinking she'll betray them. And that may be true considering as soon as she sees him, she calls the Republic for help, trying to save the children from this terrible monster, planning to keep them occupied as long as possible. After some Return of the Jedi nostalgia, we meet his friend of Jod's, Kim, and no, it's not spelt how you think it is, who has a pretty good looking design as a small owl person. The set is also quite well put together. Kim is immediately interested in helping them find At-Atin, and thanks to her we learn there are what looks like 9 planets that make up the Jewels of the Republic, At-Atin being the only remaining one, the others supposedly being destroyed. Quite cleverly, Kim decides to use a process of elimination to discount other planets, and we get confirmation that at least the children of At-Atin have no idea the Republic fell in the first place, thinking Alderaan to still be in one piece. Kim theorizes about the planet's barrier, and she notices Fern's head of class badge. The images on it apparently important, but Jod starts to realize what's up, ready to kill Kim as her backup arrives, trying to get the children to safety. But they both get some pretty good hits on each other, both thrown through piles of data. Jod and the kids escape with the info on the planet that Kim narrowed the search down to, and they leave with Kim giving KB a final piece of wisdom in dealing with Jod, and also offering future help. Jod is stopped from getting in the ship by the girls, pressing him for information as X-Wings approach. Jod tries and fails to get out of it, but eventually relents. He's not a Jedi, he's just a lone guy trying to get away.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
He makes it clear he just wants to get them home, hoping for a just reward on delivery, but he's only allowed back on the ship as their worker, not partner. They take off with some more classy angled shots, and they escape the X-Wings with a pretty good battle sequence. Wim and Fern covering the ship with laser fire, keeping the X-Wings at bay, Neil taking evasive action, and KB getting them ready to head into hyperspace. Not gonna lie, I was expecting Fern or Wim killing an X-Wing pilot to be a point of drama, but even if it doesn't get that deep, it's still a fun little sequence. Kim is still worried about the kids, but doesn't offer the pilots any help. Just a little pissed they didn't manage to save the children. And am I a little disappointed this X-Wing pilot isn't Carson Teva? Yeah, but I'm also pretty glad that there is more than just one X-Wing pilot in the galaxy. But you know, I would have just found it really funny if when literally anything happens in these shows, it always happened to be in the sector Carson Teva's patrolling.
What just happened?
Jason has abilities. His father, Kanan Jarrus, was a Jedi.
Okay.
So that was episode 3, and it might be the best of the first 3. Fun characters, good action, interesting plot points, not a huge step up, but it takes what the first 2 episodes got right and doubled down. Now on to episode 4. A little predictable in structure, but pretty creative in delivery. The crew make it to a planet that sure looks a lot like At-Atin. Fern commands Jod around, which must be pretty emasculating, but as they land, the ship is hijacked by autopilot, which at first I thought tied into the end of the episode twist, but SM-33 just lands them himself anyway with no quarrel from the autopilot, making that feel a little useless beyond Jod's funny reaction.
What happened? Oh, we're being locked into an autopilot landing sequence.
Well, is that normal? Is it normal, do you know?
They find a planet and town not unlike their own, but all in ruins, with explosions in the near distance. Jod is a little disappointed, but they soon realise it isn't At-Atin. Exploring as SM-33 keeps Jod in the ship, with some weird lines.
Come on, baby. Onto the ship, baby. Baby, come onto the ship. Don't make me count.
Wim is still being annoying and slow, but the others rationalise that this is one of the other jewels. We suffer a really abrupt screen wipe to Jod going through their shit, coming upon Wim's credits, which SM-33 doesn't take kindly to. It's here thanks to a slip-up that we and Jod figure out where we are, at Akron. SM-33 having been here before, but going back to his usual self when John mentions At-Atin, the name seemingly some sort of trigger. So Jod endeavours to figure out what's going on. The children continue through the ruins, and after a couple of decently funny reactions, they're captured by 2 self-titled Troiks, led by the daughter of the group's leader, Haina, played by Harla Finley. Hiding the kids away as their opposing warring faction, the Hattans, travel through the derelict town. Wim continues to be frustrating, but once the Huttan pass, the crew are guided to the Troik base, a building much like their school. They are introduced to the Troik leader and basically taken advantage of by them, the warring factions using children for warfare, but also treat them as equals, so give and take I suppose. The Troik don't concern themselves with outsiders, but thanks to Haina, we learn there is a sanctum that contains coordinates to the other jewels. It's too dangerous to take them there, but the Troik leader, Strix, basically wants them to prove themselves by training and being their cannon fodder. Then he'll point them to the sanctum. They use pretty words than that, but that's basically his intent. Back at the ship, Jod leads SM-33 out to try and find some treasure or point towards At-Atin, but are captured by the Hattans with the best moment of the show and also how I feel whenever Wim starts talking.
You know what, just shoot me.
Back at the school, the children train with some interesting looking weapons, but Haina gets sweet on Neil, taking him to the roof to get some food because I guess the others can just starve. And we get a nice little moment where Neil gives his food to two poorer looking children. But like, they could have just had their food, the little shits, and they just take Neil's food anyway, or at least that's what I would think is happening if the score wasn't trying so hard to convince me it's a nice but hopeful moment. Neil tells Haina about At-Atin, the way they live, comparing it to the war-torn landscape, the girl making good points but seemingly hoping for peace, even in the face of Neil's naivety, laughing about his weaker disposition. It's nice to see the bond between them actually worked on. Wim once again makes a bad choice when everyone else tells him not to, and Strix comes over kinda creepily to tell the children they'll be leading them into their next battle, not taking no for an answer, but basically forced into being their human shields. They do actually head forward, Haina by their side, and deflating some nice tension built up, their enemy turns out to be Jod coming along with SM-33 and currying favour, returning all the stolen animals from the Hattan. He uses his leverage to take the children from the Troik, actually impressing the children, and in return for their bravery, Haina points them in the direction of the Fallen Sanctum. Jod reveals that he used some of their credits to buy the herd, which disappoints the kids, and the Fallen Sanctum is actually the supervisor's tower, which could mean interesting things back at At-Atin. Haina refuses to go with them, going back to her people and imagining that one day her people might have peace. It was expected, but it's played and written fairly well as her and Neil say goodbye, even adding a little kiss. They make it into the tower, SM-33 saying his At-Atin catchphrase far more than usual, and they find the coordinates to all the other jewel planets, but At-Atins are the only ones that have been slashed, SM-33 having done it before, and his memory being played with. He reveals through his dementia that he's actually been here with his last captain, and we actually get some nice character progression as Fern gets overwhelmed. Wim actually looking to her for guidance as she despairs. Wim admitting that he would have been a much shitter captain. In her freakout, Fern slightly regains her confidence, realizing that SM-33 must follow a captain's order, using an override to access his memories of At-Atin, which works a little too well, as his forgotten orders rear their ugly head. The captain having killed all those who laid their eyes on the coordinates, before having 33 slash them, and ordering him to kill anyone who came looking. Uh-oh. While I don't think it's perfect, the purposefully off-putting camera angles doing nothing for me, the acting as SM-33 goes all berserker mode is done well, making him sound creepy, but it is all a little laid on a bit thick. And the action with how little there is fairly good as Neil stands up to SM-33, distracting him enough for Jod to run in and turn the droid off, ending the episode with Neil fainting in fear. Well, at least he didn't soil himself.
Did you just soil yourself? Maybe.
Episode 4 was pretty interesting, but I have to admit I wasn't as interested in the two warring factions as I was in the last episode. But hey, when it comes to the current climate of Star Wars, I will settle for decent. Thank you everybody for watching my review of episodes 3 and 4 of Skeleton Crew. And I'm sure we'll be back with 2 more episodes last week, considering how long it's taken me to get episode 3 and 4 review out. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so that you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.